If you are dragging yourself through the day, constantly fighting that inertia, trying to white-knuckle your way through an endless to-do list.
Oh, yeah.
It's that feeling where you just feel unmotivated, maybe even broken.
Right.
You have potential, but your internal system, it just seems dedicated to self-sabotage.
It's the ultimate cognitive dissonance. And what we found in the sources is that this feeling of being broken is actually entirely predictable.
Predictable? How so?
It's built into your core operating system. I mean, your brain is fundamentally wired for survival, not for high achievement or success.
Okay, that's a big claim.
It is, but think about it. It's an incredibly efficient pattern-creating survival tool.
No.
Its primary job is to conserve energy and avoid what it perceives as threats.
And deep, focused work.
Yeah.
That's a threat.
It is, because it demands huge cognitive output. It's expensive energy-wise.
That sets a brilliant stage. So we're not lazy. We're just, running on the wrong default settings.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to figure out exactly how to flip that switch. How do we move from fighting our own patterns to, leveraging them?
Right.
We're going to build a system for achieving focused, unstoppable energy, not by telling ourselves to just do more, but by implementing 6 specific strategies that fundamentally change the way your brain handles productive action. And we start with what seems like the most illogical step first.
Yeah, we have to shift the mental model entirely. The source material argues that if you are currently overwhelmed, the absolute worst thing you can do is try to force more productivity.
So the first and most foundational concept is pretty radical. Stop chasing productivity and start chasing clarity. Real breakthrough productivity is about doing less, but doing that less with what the sources call ruthless clarity.
Think about the trap of business. We all know people, and this might be you right now, who are constantly busy.
Checking Slack, emails.
Constantly. Responding to emails, organizing files. They check off dozens of tasks and feel productive, but they end the day feeling hollow because the truly important needle-moving actions haven't been touched.
They did the easy stuff.
They did the easy stuff. They prioritize the small tasks because those are quick dopamine hits, and they avoid the high-leverage work because it requires that deep cognitive effort we talk about.
Okay, so I agree with the 80-20 principle conceptually, but how does someone who's already overwhelmed figure out what their crucial 20% actually is? Is there like a filtering test the sources recommend?
Absolutely. The application of the Pareto principle needs to be rigorous. You can't just guess. The key is analyzing impact.
Okay.
So ask yourself, if I were forced to stop doing 5 things on my list, which ones would result in, negligible impact to my long-term goals? Those are the 80% fillers.
Yeah, and on the flip side.
Conversely, you ask, what is the single action, if I completed it today, that would render everything else easier or just unnecessary? That's your 20%.
Sounds like using elimination as a tool for prioritization.
Exactly. And that leads directly to the third practical action point for clarity, the one-thing rule.
The one.
Each morning, before you touch anything else, determine the single action that would make that day a win. Just one. Then you become laser-focused on getting it done first. The insight here is profound. If you execute on the single most important task 365 days a year,
you've achieved 365 massive results.
Exactly. That kind of targeted consistency builds insane momentum.
That immediately simplifies the chaos. You're not fighting a huge list, you're fighting one specific target. But we know this isn't enough. We've all written down our one thing and still procrastinated until 4 p.m.
Right.
Which brings us to the internal challenge, rewiring your identity.
This is where productivity begins within the nervous system. I mean, no external tool or planner can solve this if your self-identity is acting as a blocker.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you constantly tell yourself, I am a person who procrastinates, or I always burn out, or I just have bad luck, your subconscious accepts that as reality. It reinforces actions that align with it. You will always move toward the person you think you are.
So the goal is to break that negative feedback loop. We need to stop taking our current reality as like a permanent label.
Precisely. Your self-talk is creating neurological pathways. The identity shift is about intentionally laying down new positive pathways by changing your language. You stop saying, I am lazy, and you start saying, I'm becoming the type of person who consistently finishes everything that I start.
Give us a few more powerful examples of that intentional shift from the sources.
Okay, so instead of admitting defeat, you state an aspiration as a future fact. I'm becoming the type of person who plans ahead and protects my schedule.
I like that.
Or, I'm becoming the type of person who operates from a place of abundance and self-respect. This is not faking it. You're providing your nervous system with new expected outcomes.
So when your brain expects you to protect your time,
It makes setting boundaries in the external world so much easier later on.
it fundamentally changes the operating instructions. Okay, so once we have that clarity and that internal operating system is updated, we can move into the fascinating part, leveraging the chemical motivation system. Our next strategy, dopamine.
Dopamine is the key. We often think of it as the pleasure chemical, but it's more accurately the chemical of motivation.
Of seeking.
Of seeking, exactly. The brain asks, was this effort rewarding? If yes, release dopamine, so I want to seek that reward again.
And the distinction that the sources make here is absolutely critical. The difference between cheap dopamine and earned dopamine.
Absolutely. Most of us are addicted to cheap dopamine. This is the low-effort hit you get from perpetual screen scrolling, checking inboxes every 4 minutes, or, consuming excessive sugar.
The problem with that is?
The problem is that these activities flood the system with dopamine for almost zero effort. This creates a dopamine tolerance spiral. It means when your brain is constantly hit with these easy, huge spikes, your baseline dopamine receptors downregulate. They become less sensitive.
It's the normal stuff doesn't work anymore.
Right. So when you try to sit down for an hour of deep work, which provides a slower, sustained, earned dopamine, your brain perceives it as painfully boring. You've conditioned your system to only respond to constant, high-stimulus input.
So the goal is to shift that addiction from the low-effort scroll to the high-value action. How do we start generating that earned dopamine, immediately?
We use micro wins. If you have a massive task, like writing a 10-page report, and you only get that feeling of completion, the dopamine, 3 days later, your brain just resists starting.
It's too far away.
It's too far away. So instead, break it down, outline the introduction, boom. Research the first section, boom, create the key metric chart. You need to structure your work so you get 5 dopamine hits a day instead of 1 every 3 days.
That makes perfect sense. The momentum itself becomes addictive.
And you have to reinforce that reward loop. Use something like the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of focus, then a break. When that 25 minutes is over, stand up, stretch, and actually celebrate that win.
You mean literally say it?
Say it out loud. Nailed it. That was focused. Acknowledging progress releases dopamine and wires the motivation circuit for the next round. You can also pair deep work with something that naturally releases dopamine, like a certain type of music you enjoy. It just makes the act of starting less painful.
Okay, we've covered internal clarity, identity, and chemistry. Now we turn to the external battlefield, our environment. This is the fourth strategy. Designing your environment.
Exactly. Consistency isn't about having superhuman willpower. Willpower is finite, and it's easily depleted. The most successful people create environments that don't test their willpower in the first place. You need to build a protective moat around your focus.
Let's discuss the concept of friction setting up barriers against distraction. But first, let's talk about a more gentle approach from the sources, temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling is incredibly effective because it uses leverage. You pair something you intensely love with something you intensely resist. And the rule is absolute.
You only get the good thing while you do the hard thing.
You only get access to the high desire activity while doing the low desire activity.
Yeah, the examples from the sources are really clear here. If I hate cleaning the house, I can only listen to that gripping true crime podcast while I am actively cleaning the kitchen.
Or if exercise is your wall, you tell yourself you are only allowed to watch your favorite bingeable TV show while running on the treadmill. Fantastic one is linking a small reward to movement. You only get that second cup of coffee after completing, say, 50 squats and 50 push-ups.
You're using the desire for the reward to pull you through the resistance.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about the more aggressive measures, the blockers and boundaries. Some of these suggestions, like physically removing the TV from the wall during the week, they sound a little extreme. Is that level of friction sustainable for the average person?
That's a fair challenge. And the sources suggest this approach when there is a known debilitating addiction. If you're struggling with just moderate distraction, placing the phone face down in another room for, say, 10 hours is probably sufficient friction.
But for serious offenders?
For the serious offender, the extreme friction is necessary to fundamentally break that neural pathway. Deleting social media apps Monday through Friday, using browser blockers like Freedom or Cold Turkey for all shopping sites. Those become non-negotiable systems for protecting that asset.
And calling focus a million-dollar asset really helps reframe those boundaries as self-respect, not as being rude.
It is entirely self-respect. Protecting your focus means communicating clearly. I'm heads down for deep work from 9 to 12. I will respond to all non-urgent messages after that window. When you communicate a system, not just a feeling of being busy, people respect it.
This moves us beautifully into strategy number 5. Pivoting from pure time management to energy management. Most people obsess over their calendar, filling every slot, but the sources argue that time management is useless without the energy capacity to back it up.
You have to audit your energy levels throughout the day, throughout the week. And we're not just talking physical energy, but cognitive energy, emotional energy, creative energy.
So you ask yourself.
You ask, what tasks demand a high cognitive load problem-solving analysis, and what time of day does my brain naturally perform that work best?
Right. So if my cognitive capacity crashes every day at 3 p.m., scheduling the complex one-thing task like writing the strategic plan at 3 p.m. is an act of self-sabotage.
It is pointless. You must schedule your most important high-leverage work during your peak mental windows, whether that's 8 a.m. or 10 p.m. Then you use your low-energy periods for low-stakes tasks.
Organizing emails, schedule.
Basic admin. Productivity is measured by how effectively you deploy your available energy, not how many hours you clock. You must constantly ask, what drains me and who drains me and what refills my tank?
That distinction between filling and draining leads directly to our final strategy, which is really the mechanism for consistency, the CEO meeting or the weekly audit.
You need to treat your life and your goals as the most important company you run. Every Sunday, dedicate 30 minutes to sit down as the CEO of You Inc. This is your mandatory board meeting. You look back and you look ahead.
And what are the key questions during that look back?
You review the data. What did I do well this past week? What surprised me? Where did I get distracted? And, importantly, why? The goal is to identify patterns, not just successes, and then you apply the SSC model.
The SSC model.
The powerful auditing framework from the sources. What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? And what do I need to continue doing?
Okay, let's apply that model with an example. So I see that I was drained every afternoon because I spent 2 hours in unnecessary meetings and I kept forgetting to block off my deep work time.
Okay, so your SSC model for the coming week might look like this. Stop accepting meeting invitations without a clear agenda.
Right.
Start dedicating the first 90 minutes of the day to focused work before opening email. And continue prioritizing hydration and movement breaks, which I noticed improved my focus on Tuesday. You then take those changes and immediately integrate them into the coming week's schedule.
It is truly unbelievable how many people spend more hours auditing the performance of their job for somebody else than they do adjusting the system of their own lives. This dedicated audit time is what transforms effort into consistent results.
It's the difference between blindly executing an old, flawed pattern and intentionally evolving a system that serves your highest goals.
So we've moved from that initial feeling of chaotic motivation to a robust, systematic framework. Insane productivity isn't a personality trait. It's achieved through crystal clarity on that one important action, a decisive identity shift that resets your nervous system.
Leveraging earned dopamine rewards through micro wins.
Designing an environment with aggressive friction, mastering your energy, and most crucially, consistent self-auditing through that weekly CEO meeting.
And that leads to the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. Think about the stakes you assign to your own focus. Imagine you were paid $10,000 every single time you protected your scheduled deep focus block.
Wow.
And you were fined $1,000 every time you broke it by checking a notification or yielding to a distraction.
That financial incentive would instantly change every single behavior.
Exactly. What system would you build today if that were the case? Which apps would be deleted? Which boundaries would be enforced? What level of aggressive friction would you establish? That level of uncompromising self-respect is required to maintain focus. Don't wait for the hypothetical cash reward.
Build that high-stakes system now.